Okay, we're up to day 189 of going through my old journal. And the quote for today says, "How people treat you is their karma. How you react is yours." And it says, "Do you believe in karma? Are you worried about any bad karma heading your way? If so, why?" So if you're following along, you may pause and take a second to think about how you might respond to that. And I will read what I wrote. Yeah, I'll just get into it. So do you believe in karma? Are you worried about any bad karma headed your way? I said not really. For people who are outwardly hateful or rude, I do think karma comes for them in the form of other people distancing themselves from them. And I think that is even more true today, because I know maybe people are talking about this too much, but people are talking about setting boundaries with like toxic people in their lives. And I think maybe in some cases people are just like seeing everybody as toxic and maybe setting like too many boundaries. But, and that's ironic for me to say that because I basically like don't have any relationships with most people. But I think it is a good thing in some cases, because I think those people who are bad people, it is good to like get them out of your life. But anyway, I said, karma comes, people distancing themselves from them. But for some of those people, especially like very narcissistic people, they just move on to new groups of people. But I do think eventually, I hope for some of them it does come back. It has come back for my dad. He's basically like used through all of the people that he had in his life, and I don't even know what he's up to now, but yeah, he skated off of like a lot of people who were kind and who he would get them to feel sorry for him. But then he just got so bad that like even those people who were like the nicest people who tried to be the most understanding with him, like they were just like, I can't. I said, so with that being said, I said I think it's only relevant for people who aren't wealthy or powerful. So yeah, I think if you came from wealth or if you have power, they may go their whole lives without it coming back on them. If they can hold enough power over enough people, like maybe they can just get away with it. I said the more wealth or power someone has, it seems like the more they're able to get away with without suffering repercussions. While some do get caught doing terrible things and are punished, I fear that far too many go through their whole lives without suffering any consequences for their actions. And so, yeah, like I think it is the case that like some of them do get caught and made like an example of, but I think a lot of them get away with it if you've got enough wealth and power that you can just get away with it. Just because people, and especially in this book that I'm reading, that's what it sounds like. In these towns, people know that there's these bad people that are keeping like other people down, that are keeping things like going in the status quo because it just benefits them, but nobody's brave enough to stand up to them because they're powerful enough to have like consequences. I do think the access of us all having smartphones and having cameras, I'm torn between like a surveillance state or whatever, like having security cameras everywhere. It's weird because we're kind of in a surveillance state, but it's not like controlled by like one group. It's kind of like we're all kind of like playing into it, but it's helped a lot of people. So like I see all these videos of people that have like Ring doorbells, and certain criminals are getting caught based on someone's Ring doorbell. Or like, if something bad is happening, people will pull out their phones and they'll record it, and so there's like proof that these bad things are happening. So I'm hoping that having like more evidence and making it easier to get evidence on people doing bad things will help for them to have the karma come back on them. But I don't know. So said too many go through it without consequences. I said, I don't know. For me, the guilt of doing something wrong to someone would cause a substantial amount of suffering, but I know for a fact that a lot of people either don't experience guilt or don't have empathy for others. So yeah, I feel like in my own situation, like just the karma of knowing that I did something wrong, knowing that I hurt someone, like the guilt that I would feel would be like part of the karma for me. And like I've seen this on TikTok. I know I talk a lot about TikTok, and I know a lot of people think TikTok is this terrible thing, but like I've seen so many people speaking out about certain things on there that to me it's just been kind of like enlightening. Like for instance, I'm just thinking there's like these two videos I saw recently. So there was this girl that went to a restaurant, like Sonic. She went to Sonic and she ordered a corn dog. She ordered the corn dog with mustard and ketchup. And when they brought out the corn dog, it didn't have the mustard and ketchup. And she's like, I don't like to cause problems. So like, if I was just going home, I would have just taken it home and just ate it there with my own mustard and ketchup. But she's like, I'm not going home. And I didn't want to just eat like a dry corn dog. So she pushed the button, asked them to bring out some mustard and ketchup. She's like, I waited several minutes. Like, she's like, I waited a while. She's like, I looked at the time and it had been a while and I thought that maybe they forgot about me. So I pushed the button again and I was like, hey, could I get some mustard and ketchup? I didn't get it with my order. And then she said the lady that came out and brought it to her was like really rude and was like, yeah, it doesn't come with the order if you don't say it. And then so she was recording herself thinking like, I feel bad because like she felt guilty even though she didn't do anything wrong. And I think a lot of women, like I thought it was just me. Like, this is why I don't like to go out in public, because I feel like I feel too much guilt for things that maybe aren't even my fault. And she was like, I didn't like say anything back to the woman. I wasn't mad at the woman. She's like, I know that working in, food service is hard. And she was like, but like, I did say it with my order, and she didn't want this lady to think that she was just like this rude person or whatever. And she was stressed about it. And then there was this other woman that posted about like being at a store and she had her kid with her, and she'd gotten the kid like strapped into her car, and she saw this like older woman trying to like load something in her car and she was having trouble with it. And when she was about to get in her car, the older woman was like trying to like flag her over or whatever and get her to help her put the stuff in her car. And she was like, this woman probably thinks I'm a terrible person. And she was like, but my thought process was like, I've got my kid in the car, even if I lock the door, like what if this is like a setup? What if somebody is like trying to steal my kid or, whatever? And so she drove off, but then she's just dwelling on it. And that's like totally a thing that I would do. Like, if I do something, even something small like that, even something with a stranger, if I feel like the stranger like thinks that I'm like being rude to them, like it will bother me. Even if I had like a good like reason for doing it, I would feel guilty about it. And she felt guilty for driving off, and she was just posting about this. She was like, was I terrible for doing that? Like, she's like, I just drove off. But she's like, she was like, if I was alone, I probably would have helped her, but like I had my kid in the car and all this stuff. And so like, yeah, that an experience happened to me. I was really stressed out and I just needed like somewhere to go. And I was like out of town and I didn't have a place to stay. It was like in between classes or something. And I'm just like, okay, I don't have anywhere to go right now. I have to stay in town to have this other meeting. So I just drove to this park, and I just wanted to like sit at this park and just kind of like in my car and just kind of like try to relax or whatever. So I'm sitting in this car, and this looked to be like a homeless man like walks over and comes up to my window, and I just like drove off. And then I stressed about that for like a long time, because I was like, was I rude for driving off? Like, this guy didn't, like, I was scared of having like this random strange man coming up to my window. I wasn't gonna like open my door or whatever, but I was like, should I have like seen what he wanted? Like, maybe he needed help. And I stressed about it. And so I don't know. And the fact that there are some people who can do these terrible things, like, are they internally like stressed about it, or do they just like turn that off? And I'm hearing more and more of these stories of these women coming out talking about these things that like their husbands have done, or their fathers did, or their partners or whatever. And I'm like, how can these guys do this? This one lady had this terrible story of her husband that she was talking about the thing that finally happened where she left him. And I mean, he was going out to meet up with escorts, like, and she had found out that he was like, she had cancer, and she was like struggling, like battling cancer, and she found out that her husband was sleeping with these escorts, like knowing that one of them had hepatitis C, knowing that one of them had HIV, wasn't using protection with them. And she was like, how could you do this? Like, and he was like, well, you were dying anyway, so what would be the difference if you got that? And I was just like, and some people, maybe some guys hear some of that stuff and think like, well, these women are just lying. Like, I don't think so. Like, I've known guys that have done terrible, terrible, terrible things and just seem to have like no remorse whatsoever for it. Like, and I'm sure women do it too. But it just seems, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I don't understand people not having guilt or empathy for other people in some circumstances. So I said the amount of pain and suffering men have inflicted on women throughout the years and the amount of people who still condone and justify it is staggering. I wonder if somewhere deep down they know they're doing wrong by hurting others, or are they truly convinced they're in the right? If so, how do we make them see the light? I don't know. I don't know what's going on in their heads. And like, I had an experience with my dad. Like, he just, as much as people help him, he felt like he was just so entitled to like anything that he wanted. And if there was something that he wanted and somebody said no to him, he just couldn't fathom that. Like, we were harming him so badly. Like, and this is a stupid instance, but like, he felt like I don't know. One day I was over here at my grandma's house and I caught him trying to park like a trailer full of junk. He had gotten into like hoarding and all this stuff, and he was going to park this trailer on her property over here. And I come out the door and I was like, what are you doing? Like, this is not your property. Like, you can't just come and like do whatever you want with this property. And in his mind, he's like, why not? There's an empty space right there under an awning. Why can't I park my stuff there? If I don't park my stuff there, I'm going to have it sitting outside, and it may get rained on and this stuff is going to be destroyed, and it's your fault because you didn't let me park it there, because you had this open space that I'm entitled to, which he wasn't. But like, I don't know. Just, I don't know. I guess to answer the question, like, I don't believe in karma, because some people it does come back to them, but other people it doesn't seem like it does. But I do agree, like, going back to the quote, how people treat you is their karma, how you react is yours. And I think, like, if somebody does something wrong to you, like, you can't help that. Like, you can't, in a lot of cases, you can't help that. In some cases, you are putting yourself in the situation over and over again, but there's a lot of reasons why that happens for people. But, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I think there are some people that just like keep victimizing themselves for something that's happened, and like you've just got to get over it. Like in some cases, like you can't just keep living in like the past. If something bad happened to you, yeah, that's terrible, and I think it's good to like process that and understand that. But if you can't move past it, like you're just hurting yourself even more, because like, yeah, it wasn't your fault and you were a victim, but like you're still letting them victimize you if you keep reacting. And there's some cases too where I think some people like let their ego get in the way. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but like, I guess, so this is kind of a specific instance, I guess, but this is something that happened with my roommate a while back. And he's kind of changing his views on things. So like, he goes to a lot of gyms and he works out, and he's normally like, if not the biggest guy in the gym, he's one of the bigger guys in the gym. And, you know, there's a lot of weird gym dynamics that happen. And there's a lot of egos in the gyms. And like, there was this guy that he wasn't using some equipment. My roommate got on the equipment, and the guy comes over and is like, hey, I was using that. I guess he was, I don't know if he was doing a circuit or a superset or whatever. And then my roommate was just like, okay, man, let me just finish out this, you know, set. And then the guy just kind of got in his face, and my roommate kind of got back in his face. And then it just started like this argument. And so I guess one thing that we talked about, I was like, okay, I get it. Like, the guy was in the wrong, but was it worth like this argument? Like, he talked about it for a while. Like, he kept bringing it up. And I'm like, well, this is something that really bothered you. Why did it bother you? And like, why do you keep bringing it up? And like, what could be something different? And basically what he's come around to and what we've talked about is just kind of like, if it's not worth it, just like let it go. Like, guys are gonna have egos like that in the gym. Like, you can react to it like the way you did by like coming back at him with the same energy, or you can de-escalate the situation, you know, in a different way. And so, like, I guess because I'm like that peacemaker mindset, in my mind, I'm like, you know, but there's a line. Like, do you de-escalate it? Like, when somebody does wrong to you, do you, you know, try to do wrong back to them? Or do you, you know, when are you a pushover and letting people do wrong to you? And when is it better to just kind of let it go, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And so what he's come around to is like, at the gym, if it's not a big deal, he's just gonna let it go. Like, on the one hand, like, you know, he's not gonna be a pushover, but he's also not gonna like escalate a situation if it's like not necessary to escalate a situation. So yeah, I don't know. And I guess in terms of the quote, like, what I've done, my reaction is to just, you know, if somebody does me wrong, that's happened. Yeah, they were in the wrong. I'm not going to stay mad at them. Like, they've done what they've done. My reaction is going to be, well, that's them. They did this for whatever reason they did. You know, you don't know what reasons people have for acting the way that they do. But I'm just going to not associate myself with that. If it's something that I can, you know, get myself away from, then that's what I'll try to do, I guess. I don't know. This was a bad answer, but anyway, that's what came out. So, that's what I have for that day. I will be back tomorrow with day 190, and then we only have 10 days left.